What's up everyone? Welcome to today's trade recap. I'm gonna go over the two trades I took today. First one was a loss, and then second one was a pretty big win. So I'm gonna go over the confluences, my drawing liquidity, and I'm gonna go over everything here. So coming into the morning here, on the high time frame, I was bullish because I wanted us to take this internal high right here, which is a pretty clear draw. Once you look at this order flow, we're clearly bullish towards this internal high on the real high time frame here. But we also had 8:30 news, which left data lows right here. So data lows is a super strong pool of liquidity, and very commonly we'll take it and then go to our common drop. So I really wanted either us to take data lows and then target that internal high, or take that internal high to then target data lows. So when 9:30 hits, we have a super choppy open, which is somehow expected since you have a pretty strong draw below and a pretty strong draw above. Sometimes price will just accumulate for a little bit because it has not really a true direction, since we have two draws that are on both directions. So we opened pretty choppy here, and one thing I was looking at was these gaps here on the high time frame. So you can see we swept this internal high inside this 1 hour gap here, and we also had the second 1 hour gap. And on ES, we also had a final 1 hour gap that got tapped during this move up here. So when we have this move up, and again, by the way, at that point, I was 100% sure we were going to data lows as soon as we could. So after we took out this external high here, and ES tapped the 1 hour gap, we ended up immediately rejecting from it and inversing this 1 hour gap, which is the highest time frame inversion. And you can see it's a pretty nice close here too. So because we have a super strong draw below, I was okay with taking shorts here. Now, there was a few other factors that could make this trade not as good. So for example, we had this 1 hour gap here that didn't get tapped. Up to that point, it didn't get tapped. You can see it right here. So the reason I'm okay with taking shorts even though we left liquidity above is because if you have a draw that's super strong below here, price is gonna likely reach it as soon as it have enough confluences to do so. You don't need to have everything aligned since the draw is that strong. So I thought, okay, we're getting the highest time frame inversion. We already took some liquidity above. ES tapped that gap, and at that point we're also pretty uncorrelated too with ES. ES was being pretty bullish, so I thought, okay, once ES taps this gap, we're gonna reject from it, and that's what happened. We got the inversion, so that's when I entered shorts right here, targeting data lows, and this ends up just going straight to the stop loss. So what price wanted to do was to get more liquidity so we could sponsor this move down. So after we tap the 1 hour on NQ, we reject from it again. And at that point I thought, okay, we're gonna go to data lows without getting an entry. But we ended up rejecting from pretty much nothing down here, and we ended up going up again. Now, once I see that, okay, we rejected from this high, then went back. Okay, then we rejected from this 1 hour gap, went down. Okay, then we rejected from this wicks, went up. This is kind of a seek and destroy profile. It's not like a classic seek and destroy, but we're still just bouncing from buy side to sell side, and we're not really taking any significant drawing liquidity here. So after we start moving up again, this leg here is way more clear than this one. Like this leg here, there's no way you can draw any ABS rejection on this because there's 100 retracements, but this one is way more clear. So what I do is I place my fib on this retracement here. So if you look at the 2 minute, this is a pretty clean retracement. And you can see these deviations here align with this high. And every time we sweep a high that's inside a gap, so this high is sitting inside this 1 hour gap right here. Every time we sweep a high like this is a soup, and it usually gives a pretty strong rejection. So when you pair with the ABS rejection, you can get some pretty nice entries. So you can see as price moves on here, we tap into this ABS zone. We sweep these highs, and then at that point I was okay with taking shorts. Now, You might be wondering, okay, why would you take shorts here and not wait for this internal high to get taken? And the reason is because this turned into a seek and destroy profile, and days like this you don't need too much of a sweep to sponsor the move back down. Usually you sweep the first high and that's gonna cause the reversal. So since we took this high, we rejected from ABS, I thought, okay, this could sponsor this move back down. All I need is an entry now. So one thing I was looking at was these two 1 minute gaps here, and there was also a small 2 minute here. Now we also go up here at first, and a lot of people decided to fade the setup because of this move up. So usually when you have something like this, and we didn't form an internal SMT here with those highs or anything, but if you look at even lower time frame, you can see that we had this 30-second BPR here that we respected. So this move here has a reason. We just rebalanced this small range here, tapped into this BPR. It's also OTE of this part right here. So you can see we respect this and reject from it on a pretty nice momentum. At this point, this right here also becomes a CISD since we tapped into a PD array above and then close back below. And then in the same candle, we inversed both of those 1 minute gaps and also the 2 minute gap. So the 2 minute was the highest time frame inversion, which makes this a pretty safe entry. So that was my entry confirmation right here after the close. Stop at this high, if you want at this high either, or this candle, doesn't really matter. I wasn't expecting price to go back to this region because of this CISD right here. So that was my entry, and then my target was the same as the first trade, data lows. And this ended up playing out pretty smoothly towards data lows. Now another thing you'll notice, and that's, I've said this before, this is a sign that you managed to place the right fib and it was a valid ABS trade, is that if you look at the leg where I placed the fib, which is the breaker after it gets validated, this right here is your bearish breaker. You can see that once we validated this breaker with this candle right here, we ended up going back to it, respected, and then that sponsored the rest of the trade. And that's the whole point of ABS, right? You're anticipating that this breaker is going to get validated, and then this is going to give support to your trade. So pretty smooth zero drawdown trade pretty much, and super strong target. Also, you can see that this deviation right here aligns perfectly with your target, which makes it an even higher probability target. On top of that, we also have a 30-minute unfilled gap below here. So you can see right here we had this 30-minute gap right below data lows, which make it an even better target. Now, as you can see, this ended up playing out like way more than I was expecting. And I didn't leave any partials. Now you might think, okay, we had some low resistance here, we had other gaps in this leg, we had London lows right here, we had other high time frame lows. Why didn't you leave a partial? And the reason is that I only take partials on non-major liquidity pools, and I full close at major liquidity pools. So data lows, London lows, any other session highs low, previous day high, so really high time frame highs and lows, high time frame gaps, those are major liquidity, right? They are huge liquidity pools, so that's where I full close. And that's because the bigger the liquidity pool, the bigger the rejection you can expect from it, and the more likely there's going to be a reversal. So if you have a liquidity pool that's super strong like data lows, it's very likely that you're going to take it and then immediately reverse. So you don't want to just take a partial, you want to full close when you have something like that. Now if this was just like a internal low or like a 15-minute low, then yeah, I'd probably take 50% of my position and then let the rest run until an actual high time frame liquidity pool got taken, such as London lows right here. But because data highs is already a huge liquidity pool, I full close when we take it. So yeah, this first loss here ended up being like a $16,000 loss, and then this one was a pretty nice like 70K win. So I ended up the day like 56-ish on profit. And yeah, I think this trade is really textbook since you have the soup plus the ABS rejection, and it's when you have something like this and then you validate some sort of CISD and you have some inversion, it's really nice. Also, this trade we had time alignment, so this right here happened right at the beginning of the 1050 macro, and since 10 a.m. was just pretty much accumulating, we didn't really take any major liquidity point. 11 a.m. ended up taking all of that liquidity. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. ABS video is coming soon too, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, peace.